All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be touching on the top prop bets in college football this Saturday. Let's go ahead and get into it. And so I want to start out with some of the kind of big edges that we are getting right now on the cheat sheet, on the PrizePicks cheat sheet, especially in comparison to both PrizePicks and Underdog, because there are some pretty massive prop line differences, especially with some quarterbacks that we have. So we got Nico to start out, guys. This is a very big prop line difference for Nico. He's a quarterback that has really struggled thus far. If you look at his game log on PrizePicks, you'll notice that he has been someone that has struggled. Okay, so his fantasy score on PrizePicks is set at 19.5. Okay, on Underdog, it's going to be much higher. What was it at? 23.15. And so that's a massive prop line difference for a quarterback because this is a one-for-one swap, meaning that the fantasy score calculation is not different at all. Both sites value it exactly the same. And so these lines should exactly be the same. So it shouldn't be off by 4 like it is. Now, we do look at his game log, and we're seeing that, holy crap, this guy has not been able to really do well at all. And that's true, right? He has not gotten this over. But he gets a great matchup, probably the best matchup, or it is the best matchup you could basically ask for opposing quarterbacks. And so the question is, can he produce that much in, obviously his best matchup thus far of his young career? So I get why Underdog has it that high. They're really valuing the matchup. Whereas PrizePicks is saying, yeah, the matchup's great, but he still hasn't played well at all. And so I don't know. I'm more excited about the under on Underdog, but at the same time, guys, this prop line difference being that big should not be happening. That's pretty crazy. And so another one that's really crazy as well is Malik Rutherford. Okay, so the PrizePicks line is at 10.5 for this receiver. And so looking at this line, guys, this is one that really should not be happening. It's at 10.5 right now. And if you look at the Underdog line just straight up, we are doing a slight prop line calculation difference here. So the slight prop line calculation difference would be that Underdog is valuing it more at 13.3. Okay, but when we look at it, the line is at 11 on Underdog. So Underdog is valuing them higher, and they do half-point PPR. That should not be happening. This is a crazy edge that we are getting. If you're someone that maybe is knowledgeable on college football, maybe you see the game log and see, yeah, he's going to get lower. And if you want to bet this middle, you can. This is pretty crazy. This should not be happening. And so I'm happy to bet the over here on PrizePicks, knowing that Underdog is a little bit too high and knowing that kind of the sportsbook data is telling us to bet the over here. Okay, that's what the bet tag is telling us. So from there, we have so many other kind of situations where that's occurring. And so another one that we have here is looking at Coleman to get his over fantasy score, a decent prop line difference again when you're kind of looking at how Underdog is valuing this. This is one where I truly feel could end up in the middle. So he's going to get a difficult matchup here going against Penn State. Penn State averages around 17 fantasy points given up to opposing running backs, which is actually pretty good. They're the 34th most difficult matchup. The interesting thing with Coleman is he's been someone that has seen an increase in snaps lately as well. So he had 58 snaps last game. That was his most of the season thus far. So if that role continues, then sure, he could continue to get this over. They have kind of given him more of a workhorse workload. And so I can kind of get behind that. But again, a little bit of a middling opportunity there. And that's kind of the thing. We have so many slight middling opportunities that we could potentially look at. So one I want to call out here is Drew Alar here, where we're seeing his line is at 16.5 on PrizePicks. The data is basically saying, all right, at 51% for that to happen. But we're going to see the Underdog line is at 18.45. And so he is someone that is actually getting a very difficult matchup here. And so I actually think I like the under a little bit more on Underdog here. He's getting the 9th most difficult matchup here in Washington, a team that has given up 14.4 fantasy points on average. And so this is a bet that I am gearing up for more on Underdog, where I like the lower fantasy score. Now we're starting to get a little bit lower to like the prop line differences that we're getting with some of these quarterbacks like Jackson Dart, a little bit of a middle opportunity. Don't need to go too crazy with that. So let's just go ahead and jump on into some of the bigger edges that we currently have just in general in college football. And so guys, looking at the cheat sheet here for college football, Ashton Genty here for his fantasy score is pretty crazy. That we're seeing this big prop line difference. Now, why is that? Well, we know it's just he's a beast. I get I'm sure his touchdowns is just very high. Like it's probably like 2.5 or something. It's a tight line. I don't know. I haven't really bet on him that much, but I kind of I get why there's a big difference between the sportsbook line there. That's an outlier. Let's put it that way. That's an outlier. If you want to bet the over, you can. From there, we are getting some other bets that I think are okay, but not necessarily ones I want to go in on. Let's go ahead and take a peek at these like non-fantasy score prop bets. I know not everyone gets access to the best prop bets, fantasy score prop bets, and that's unfortunate. So let's take a peek at some of these other ones. We got receptions here for Higgins. That line is 6, so probably going to be a push there. Another one, Xavier here. That's another one that's probably going to be a push. So the lines definitely do get a decent amount tighter there from that point on. So I want to get into another bet that I actually don't mind. That's going to be looking at Evan Stewart to get really probably his over receiving yards. Honestly, I know Vegas is not telling us to bet the over. Maybe you could do his fantasy score. Maybe you could do his receptions. But the point is, I think he's going to have a good game. And that's just really based off of the matchup that he has. Maryland is the easiest matchup that you could ask for any receiver, literally on the board. On average, if you take their yards per game divided by 3 receivers, which is typically, obviously a lot of 3 receiver sets, they average 75 yards given up. Also, Tez Johnson has been ruled out in this game, so that means Stewart is probably going to be the receiver number 1 in this offense. And so, easiest matchup, increased role. Now, if you look at his game log, you're not going to like it, as it's been, obviously a little bit hit or miss. Don't exactly like that, but Michigan definitely a tough matchup. But again, given the increased role that he has, he should be able to go out and have a pretty good game in this game against the easiest matchup you could really ask for. Now, real quickly, I do want to talk about some spots where we are getting some big prop line differences where we're not exactly getting some sportsbook data. So, like, for example, Shedeur Sanders with his over fantasy score, I think is a great bet. So he's going against Texas Tech, who is a defense that is really not good. They're like the 4th easiest matchup for opposing quarterbacks on this slate. They average like 30 points given up to opposing quarterbacks. And so this is one where it's a middling opportunity, clearly, okay, between PrizePicks and Underdog. 27 might be a little bit too high, honestly, an Underdog. I'll pull up his game log here on PrizePicks, and you guys will see, again, same scoring on PrizePicks and Underdog for quarterbacks. You'll see he has somewhat struggled a little bit recently, but again, this is going to be a vastly easier matchup for him. And so I kind of like the middle a little bit, but I also think the over here is pretty darn good. And so I'm kind of happy to bet the over here on PrizePicks. And then just calling out some more like Quinn Ewers. If you guys like that one, you can run that one out there. That's fine. And so looking at kind of a simple bet of the day here for PrizePicks as it sits right now, I actually had a couple more bets that I liked for PrizePicks, but they have since taken them off. We'll see if they come back on tomorrow. But looking at it, guys, just some decent edges. So I'm going to be writing out an underdog bet here in just a second as well. Trying to hit a middle here with these two, full disclosure, with those big prop line differences here, especially with Nico. Again, I kind of like the under a little bit better. And I should say, I do think that it's going to be a better day on Underdog. That's my personal preference. I think it's going to be a better day there. And then Evan Stewart, again, I kind of like this one more than maybe the data is suggesting. And then this one is should on paper just be the best one that we really have, like the data was showing us. All right, so ignore this middle bet here. Okay, I'm just going to cross that one out. This is just a slip that I ran out about an hour ago before I do this video, but the same bets will still apply here on Underdog. Again, I think Nico for his under is a better bet here on Underdog, and Drew Allure, I think his bet on Underdog is a little bit better. Quinn Ewers, if you guys look at his game log, he's been someone that has been struggling to really have those ceiling games recently. Now, yes, he's been injured and whatnot, I get that, but I kind of like the under a little bit better on Underdog. He's someone that has prop line difference, Jackson Dart, Sanders as well, and then Jackson Arnold as well. So more attacking some of those middling opportunities on Underdog. But again, I think Underdog is just a little bit too high on some of their lines. So I think I like that a little bit better there. So that's going to be all, guys. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to give a like and subscribe. That does help out the channel a lot. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.